women's Bible study in the evening. It is also the March for Life down at the mall in Washington, D.C. The Metropolitan will be holding a divine liturgy, hierarchical liturgy for the sanctity of life at St. Nicholas Cathedral in Washington, D.C. And the Orthodox Christians for Life gathers as a group. There's some instructions, I think you can find it in your bulletin, on where to meet. And if you'd like to participate in the prayer walk that we do as part of that event. I know a lot of people feel very uncomfortable when they hear that the church is involved in things that have a clearly political element to them. And I 100% understand that, because I have, as said many times in my sermons, I don't want any of you or any Christian anywhere in the world to ever become somebody's useful idiot so that they can rise to political power. That's not what the Orthodox Christians for Life are doing, I'm glad to say. I've gone many times, and I found that the experience has not left me felt unclean or politically compromised or anything of that sort. I feel that's a very important event for Orthodox Christians to gather together to bear a witness to this vast sea of mostly Roman Catholics and a few conservative Protestant groups that are there, of the Orthodox approach to the sanctity of life, which is a little more, I guess, common sense, a little bit more compassionate, a little bit more measured and realistic, and but most of all, repentant. And what we're doing there, what I've experienced the Orthodox Christians doing there, and what I will be doing there this Friday, is coming together as the body of Christ to grieve for the loss of, now in this country, over 62 million children who didn't have to die. 65 million abortions have been practiced in this country since it was legalized in Roe v. Wade, but 95% of those, so about 62, were what we call elective. That means they were not for the health or medical necessity, or in the hard case scenarios such as rape or incest. They were elective. That means people chose to do them because they didn't feel ready, they didn't feel economically supported, they had pressure on them by their families or in their relationships. And so for them, the choice was not a choice as much as a moment of desperation and fear. That's a sign of a society that has failed fundamentally to take care of women and children. That's something worth protesting about. That problem is worth protesting about and being a presence and saying, we should not live in the most wealthy, health advanced, scientifically advanced, economically advanced country or civilization in the history of humanity where 65 million or 62 million people, 1 million a year approximately, women feel that they don't have a choice if they get pregnant but to abort terminate their pregnancy. That's not a sign of health or well-being. That's not a sign of women's empowerment. That's not a sign of virtue or goodness. And anyone who celebrates that freedom as a virtue is, I'm sorry, flawed and wrong and failing to be not just a Christian but a human being. We need to be a presence of love, of compassion and understanding, but also we need to speak the truth to power. And that means to both parties, because once you put these things into the hands of politicians, what do? They screw it up. They screw it up. They run to the extreme edges, and they lose the middle where you could actually get something done that would actually do some good. Roe v. Wade got overturned, and guess what? It didn't do anything. It didn't stop it. It didn't slow it. The only thing that slowed it, the pandemic. In the year 2022, it went down to about 600,000, but it's remained around 900 to 1 million a year, regardless. So abolition is not a solution long term. It's not doing the thing that people hoped it would do. What's going to make the difference is bearing a witness to society and fundamentally changing society to make it more compassionate, more supportive of women and children and families, more encouraging to men to step up and be responsible for where they plant their seed and for not being afraid to take responsibility and being good fathers. One of the things that I find most heartbreaking and that I share my grieving with when I go to the March for Life is all the signs of the young men and women who carry the signs that say, I regret my lost child. I regret my abortion. I regret my failure. That to me is the most profound witness that I see there. Because I don't know anybody who feels great about what they did, or if they do, I mean, they got problems. Let's be honest. It's not a choice anyone should want to make or feel good about making. It's a choice that maybe we can make less incentivized by trying to create a world which is more compassionate and supportive. And I think that's something worth being a presence for. So I invite you. I invite you to join me, the Metropolitan, Bishop Andre, many priests, many clergy, and many faithful Orthodox Christians this Friday to either join us down in the mall where we meet or to take some time in your day and to pray about this, to pray about it, to pray for everybody who's been wounded. There's nothing more deeply wounding than the loss of a child, even when it was chosen. In fact, sometimes that's even worse, because who do you have to comfort you? You can't go around and tell everybody, I lost my child. You live in the secret darkness that weighs on you for years. I've heard the confessions. Women who put themselves under a penance of their own making for decades because of their shame and their hurt and their pain. I wouldn't have given them that kind of penance. I would have said the prayer of absolution for them and asked them to do better next time and sent them on their way and said, God forgives you. Don't be afraid to go and do what's best. But instead they hid. They hid in their pain and their agony, and they carried it with them. Why? No, join us and pray for all those people, all those women who have been hurt, all those men who have been hurt because they were told this was good for them or good for their partner or whatever, and that they shouldn't rise up and try to be fathers. Pray for all the parents who were in their distorted care for their children, thought it would be better for them to encourage their child to end a pregnancy, and thus led their grandchildren to the grave. What a horrific abomination that is. They have the greater condemnation, I'll tell you. And for our politicians who screw everything up, and they need our prayers. They're awful. God has a great fire for all people who serve in those levels of government, I assure you. And if you read the Old Testament, you'll see exactly that's the case. Brothers and sisters, we have a responsibility to each other. And that includes the most vulnerable in our society, those who are on the beginning of life, those who are in the middle of life, those who are at the end of life. A pro-life Orthodox ethic encompasses the entirety of human life and cares for everyone wherever they're at. And it doesn't say only this matters and forget about that, or let's just outlaw this but then totally neglect social security networks and safety nets for those who are vulnerable. That's not okay either. None of these politicians get it right. They are all off in the wrong way. It's up to us to be the voice of moderation and the moderates and the middle that can say, let's work together and make a better society. That's what we're called to do. And that's what I'll be praying for. And I invite you to pray with me this week as we commemorate this anniversary. That's all I have to say about that. So, if I bugged you,